Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the source materials you're curious about and, well, we pull out the key insights for you, the learner.
Exactly. We try to make it quick and thorough.
And this time, you've pointed us towards something really fascinating. We're looking at the Vedic perspective on dark matter and dark energy.
Yeah, this is based on a YouTube transcript we found featuring Acharya Agnivrat from Vedic Physics. It's quite something.
It really is. It's from a talk given in Agra, India, and it basically contrasts these ancient Vedic ideas with, modern physics' biggest puzzles.
Right. So our mission, if you like, is to really get our heads around this Vedic viewpoint on these, well, mostly invisible bits of the universe.
Okay, let's dive in. Where do we start? Maybe with the modern physics side as the source outlines it.
Good idea. So the transcript starts there. Modern physics, the standard picture, universe made of molecules.
Yeah.
New in Vedic terms, but atoms and molecules for us.
Right, the building blocks.
Exactly. Molecules from atoms, atoms from electrons, protons, neutrons, all those familiar particles.
And then deeper still.
Then you get to quarks inside protons and neutrons. But the transcript highlights this point, what's beyond quarks. That's still a big question mark.
And it mentions a bit of maybe a slowdown in particle physics breakthroughs recently.
Yeah, it notes that at the time of the talk, there hadn't been, huge breakthroughs in the last 3 years or so. String theory is mentioned.
Yes, string theory.
But, as an idea, a hypothesis, not universally accepted yet.
And the Higgs boson, it gets a mention, too, from 2012.
Right, and its supposed role in giving particles mass. But even with that, the transcript points out these fundamental puzzles remain.
Like electrons and positrons.
Exactly. Same mass, opposite charge. But fundamentally, what is the difference? It's not just the charge sign, is it? Or is it?
And other antiparticle pairs, too. Neutrinos, antineutrinos.
Yeah. Spin is often the differentiator mentioned, like for photons and antiphotons, perhaps. But what's underneath that difference?
So it makes you wonder, are these particles we call elementary really the end of the line? Or is there something else going on inside them?
That's the core question it raises. What makes an electron, not a positron? An up quark different from a down quark? And it even touches on rest mass.
Like the photon having zero rest mass, but mass when it's moving.
Right. These are the kinds of puzzles modern physics is still wrestling with.
Which I guess opens the door for alternative perspectives, like the Vedic one presented here.
Precisely. And that's where the transcript introduces Vedic physics, specifically this Vedic Rashmi Theory.
Rashmi Theory.
It says it originated in India maybe 5,000 years ago, rediscovered and detailed in a book, Vijayan Alok Vedic Rashmi Theory of Universe.
And the central idea is?
Vibrations. The entire universe, seen and unseen, is made of vibrations. Rashmi.
So not particles, but vibrations.
Fundamentally, yes. And these Rashmi aren't just passive vibrations. They're defined as vibrations that actually create and control other vibrations.
Wow, okay. That's a different way of looking at things.
It really is. So from this viewpoint, space itself, all particles dark and visible, and all the forces, they're all just results of these underlying vibrations.
So it connects everything back to this vibrational foundation.
Yes. And it even compares the 4 fundamental forces we know in physics.
Gravity, electromagnetism, strong and weak nuclear.
Right. Compares those to 9 forces described in the Vedic Rashmi theory. And interestingly, it suggests our 4 forces kind of merge into just 2 within this Vedic model.
9 forces.
Yeah.
That's quite a difference. It reminds me a bit, the transcript mentions Nikola Tesla, right?
Yeah.
His focus on vibrations and frequencies.
It does make that connection, like a thread between ancient thought and more recent scientific intuition.
But then the Vedic view takes it even further.
Much further. It claims the entire creation is actually made of Vedic mantras.
Mantras, like sound vibrations.
Exactly, sound vibrations. It argues the Vedas aren't just religious texts for Hinduism or India, but actually cosmological texts.
And that the sound vibrations from reciting these mantras traditionally, they have creative power in the universe.
That's the claim. It talks about 4 forms of sound or speech. Vani. There's Vaikari, that's us talking now.
Okay.
Madhyama, the sort of electrical signal level in the brain, thought before speech. Pashyanti, deeper, at the mind or intellect level. And Para, the deepest level, in the soul.
Para.
And the universe, it says, is made of Vedic mantras, and there's really subtle Para and Pashyanti forms, things we can't directly perceive without, maybe advanced technology or deep meditative states.
So a reality built on consciousness and vibration.
Yeah.
Fundamentally. Very different from matter being the primary thing.
Completely different starting point, yeah.
So how does this Vedic view explain the actual beginning, the origin of the universe.
Yeah.
Modern science has the Big Bang, but as the transcript notes, it has issues, like what came before.
Right. The Vedic answer is distinct. It starts with the first vibration being Om, but Om in its paraform, that deepest level.
Received by the soul from the mind.
Yes, and this Om vibration interacts with something called Prakriti.
Prakriti, what's that?
You can think of it as the primordial substance, the unmanifest potential. Sort of like the quantum vacuum, maybe, but different. It's the raw stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Om vibrating Prakriti leads to Mahatattva. That's like the cosmic seed, the very beginning of creation structure.
And from that seed.
A sequence unfolds: Hamkara, which is like ego or individuation, Manas, the mind, Prana, the life force, then the Vedic mantras as Rashmi, then the Panchamahabhuta.
The 5 elements: ether, air, fire, water, earth.
Those are the ones. And finally, particles emerge from those elements.
It uses that analogy of typing on a computer, right?
Yeah.
The unmanifest potential becoming
It
manifest.
does, and it really highlights the contrast with the Big Bang's starting point.
How so?
Well, the Vedic initial state is described as having infinite volume, but zero energy, zero mass, no temperature, no movement, basically pure potential.
Which is the exact opposite of the Big Bang's singularity: infinitely dense, infinitely hot, zero volume.
Totally opposite. The transcript points to Vedic texts describing this initial state as tama, darkness, inertia, apradyatam, unmanifest, unknowable.
And it brings in the gunas.
Yes, the 3 gunas of Prakriti: sattva, rajas, tamas. Goodness, activity, inertia. Initially, they're in perfect balance in Prakriti.
Until Om disrupts it.
Exactly. The Om Rashmi vibration creates an imbalance, and that imbalance gives birth to Kala time. Time is seen as the actual constructor of the universe,
But guided.
guided and inspired by Paramatma, the supreme consciousness.
So consciousness, Chetna, is absolutely central here. It's not something that just emerges later from complex matter.
Not at all. The transcript is quite critical of modern science for, often ignoring or dismissing consciousness. The Vedic view says no action, no creation without consciousness.
And it describes consciousness as omnipresent, eternal, formless.
Omnipresent, Sarvagyapak, eternal Sheshvat, formless Nidokar, powerful Shaktiman, all-knowing, Sarvaya. It's foundational.
It even questions the idea that particles just inherently move on their own.
Yeah, using that analogy, you see a cow standing still and a car moving. You didn't see the car start or stop, so maybe you conclude it's just always moving. It suggests we might be making a similar mistake about particle motion. Maybe there's a deeper cause.
So Om reveals the gunas, leads to Mahatattva, Ahamkara, Manas, then the Rashmi.
Right. The different types of Rashmi emerge: 11 primary Prana Rashmi, then second and third generations, 16 specific Chanda Rashmi, like Gayatri,
And broader categories too: Asuri, Devi.
Asuri Devi, Stavar, Jangam. With Asuri Rashmi being considered primary in some sense, the whole universe is described almost like the music of Paramatma, resonating with these Vedic mantras.
It even explains space, Akash, forming from vibrations.
Yeah, vibrations and Manastattva, the sort of mind stuff of the universe, like churning curds to get butter, space emerges, then photons, other particles, then planets, stars.
A very different creation story. Okay, so with that background, let's get to dark matter specifically.
Yeah.
Modern science, invisible stuff, 85% of matter, interacts via gravity, holds galaxies together. How does Vedic physics see it?
Well, the transcript says the Vedic view talks about 2 types of invisible stuff: Dev Padarth and Asur Padarth.
Dev and Asur Padarth, okay.
Dev Padarth leads to forming lokas, universes, galaxies, organized structures. Asur Padarth doesn't form lokas directly.
So is Asur Padarth the Vedic equivalent of dark matter?
It has similarities, but also important differences from how modern science defines dark matter and dark energy. For instance, the transcript expresses skepticism about dark matter not interacting electromagnetically at all.
Because the Vedic view says everything interacts somehow.
Pretty much, especially given those 9 forces they talk about. The only thing mentioned as not directly interacting yet inspiring everything is Kala time itself.
So what is this Asur Padarth then, if it relates to dark matter?
It seems to encompass substances formed before space as we know it fully manifested. Things like the fundamental Chanda Rashmi, Prana Rashmi. These might not interact with electromagnetic waves in the way modern science expects.
And it connects to Asur Urja, demonic energy? Is that the right translation?
Asur often gets translated as demonic, but it might be better understood as primordial or less manifest or not contributing to divine order in this context. It's linked to dark matter and dark energy, but again, with distinctions from the modern concepts.
The transcript revisits why science proposed dark matter in the first place, the galaxy rotation problem, stars moving too fast for the visible matter.
Right. The assumption of unseen matter providing extra gravity. But the Vedic view questions that initial assumption that stars nearer the center should rotate faster based only on visible matter.
Using the analogy of moving through different densities, like air versus water.
Exactly. It points out we don't actually know the composition or density of the galactic center, so the simple calculation might be flawed.
And it contrasts the percentages. Modern science, 71% dark energy, 24% dark matter, 4–5% visible matter. Vedic view.
Suggests more Asur Padarth, the non-locoforming stuff, than Dev Padarth, the visible stuff. It's a different balance.
And Asur Padarth is broader than just dark matter particles. Includes manas and prana.
Yes, the universal mind stuff, manas, and the life force pervading everything, prana, are also termed Asur. It links Asur Padarth to Maya, illusion, and tamas, darkness, inertia.
What about electric charge? Does Vedic dark matter have it? Modern science mostly says no.
The Vedic view, according to the transcript, says yes. Charge, or vidyut, is seen as the very beginning of interaction. It suggests maybe charge isn't just positive or negative, but a broader category.
And gravity vritti, another interaction type.
Yes, so charge exists in space, photons, and dark matter, but maybe in forms we haven't recognized yet. That's the implication.
So Vedic dark matter, Asur Padarth, holds galaxies together, meaning it must have force and energy.
Definitely. It provides the underlying structure, even if it doesn't form the bright parts itself. Maharishi Delanan is cited as describing it as formless Vayu air wind.
Leading to that claim that Vedic science is like 100 years ahead.
That's the claim made in the source, based on these kinds of insights. A bold statement, for sure.
It gets even more specific, talking about types of Vedic dark matter. Modern science is still wondering if it's WIMPs or axions or what.
Right. The Vedic view in the transcript, 9 types.
9? Wow. How are they described?
They're described by how they interact, particularly how they affect particles trying to combine. For example, it mentions dark matter appearing between approaching positive and negative charges, creating repulsion.
Okay, what are some of these types?
Let's see. Trina consumes or absorbs particles trying to combine. Rakshas actively attacks and destroys them. Appa hinders them, trips them up, pushes them away.
Sounds quite active.
Very.
Yeah.
Mayor throws particles away forcefully. Kilvish attacks them, causing defects or diseases. Vishalatam actively separates combining particles. Apahari steals one of the particles away.
This is incredibly detailed.
There's more. Vritra holds back expansion when large bodies like stars form, causing planets to separate later when it explodes or releases. Dazu steals parts from combining things, making them ineffective. Vastav Patana causes conflict between combining entities.
11 types mentioned there, actually. Operating everywhere.
Throughout the universe, yes. It paints a picture of this unseen realm as incredibly dynamic and influential.
So what about detecting it? Modern science is trying hard.
The Vedic perspective cautions against assuming undetectable means non-existent. Uses that analogy of a child not being able to reach a fruit doesn't mean the fruit isn't there.
So why is it hard to detect in this view?
It suggests the dark matter particles, or Rashmi, are denser and more balanced than visible matter particles, making them harder for our current methods to interact with or perceive.
In composition, is it just these Asuri Rashmi?
Primarily Asuri Rashmi form dark matter and energy, yes. But interestingly, it also suggests visible matter can become dark matter under certain conditions.
Oh.
For example, Chandra Rashmi, strongly influenced by manas, mind, tend to form visible matter. Those with less manas influence might form dark matter.
And the Gayatri Mantra analogy.
Right. Remove the last part, change the vibration, and maybe it forms dark matter instead of light or visible matter. It also mentions vibrations needing to be covered by Vedic Rashmi to form this specific Shrishti creation. Uncovered visible matter, Rashmi, could become dark matter.
It even brings in masculine-feminine principles. Strai and Purush.
Yes, suggesting that imbalanced combinations of these principles in matter tend towards dark matter formation. It's a very different classification system.
Okay, what about force? Does dark matter exert force? Seems obvious if it holds galaxies together.
The Vedic view says absolutely yes, it's essential. And it critiques relying only on space-time curvature for gravity.
How so?
Argues that force must come before curvature. Like bending a stick, you apply force, then it curves. Curvature is a result, a property of nature, but not the sole cause of attraction.
And it suggests real gravitons exist.
Yes, real gravitons, not just virtual ones. But the interaction between them and charged particles like photons involves yet another force, perhaps one of the 9 Vedic forces?
So, summarizing the Vedic properties of dark matter: holds the cosmos, has force, has charge, vidyut, maybe not +1, and has mass.
That seems to be the gist from the source, yes.
And its distribution. Modern science thinks maybe not all galaxies have lots of it. Vedic view.
Suggests Asur Padarth is everywhere, pervasive. Dev Padarth, visible matter, is more localized.
And it has a specific model for galaxy formation.
A very detailed one. Galactic center with 10 Dashanadi channels with specific substances and forces, then 6 surrounding layers, 17 layers total before the first star orbits.
And these layers have mass and force.
Significant mass and force, yes. The transcript implies this inherent structure of the galactic center might be what modern science is misinterpreting as a huge blob of dark matter.
A completely different picture of a galaxy's core. Okay, let's shift to dark energy, modern view. Mysterious energy, accelerating universal expansion, inferred from redshift.
Right. And here, the Vedic perspective in the transcript is quite blunt. It calls the Big Bang Theory a big lie of modern physics.
Strong words.
Very. However, it does acknowledge expansion happens, like during star and planet formation. It attributes this expansion to Asur Urja.
Asur Urja, equating that to what science calls dark energy.
That seems to be the connection made. It even links it to Vedic texts about Vayu, wind, separating heaven, Duloka, and earth, Prithviloka, a separating force.
But it's skeptical about accelerated universal expansion.
Highly skeptical. The argument raised is, if space itself is expanding everywhere, shouldn't the things in space expand too? Molecules, atoms, wouldn't matter, just fly apart.
It's a fair point if the fabric itself stretches.
Exactly. It questions the coherence of that picture. And it also critiques the Big Bang's initial conditions, again, infinite density and zero volume being impossible.
So what's the Vedic definition of dark energy then?
It's defined more specifically as the energy that maintains distance between things. It pushes apart in some contexts, creates separation, not necessarily driving a runaway expansion of everything, everywhere, all the time.
A force of separation or maintaining separation rather than just expansion fuel?
That seems to be the idea presented. So yeah, this deep dive shows a huge difference in perspective. Modern physics looks at gravity and effects on light. Vedic Rashmi theory talks vibrations, consciousness. Asur and Dev Padarth, multiple forces.
It's definitely a different framework. The Vedic science described here offers explanations that are, well, radically different but claim to address the same cosmic mysteries.
Based on fundamentally different principles, vibration, consciousness, these subtle substances.
So for you, our listener, the learner, if this has piqued your interest, the source material points towards VedicPhysics.org and the Vedic Physics YouTube channel.
And it mentioned the Aryabhat Vedic Scholar Center being set up in Rajasthan for future study as well.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How different frameworks can arise to explain the same observations. This Vedic approach seems incredibly intricate.
It certainly suggests that looking beyond our current scientific models, maybe even to ancient wisdom, could offer surprising insights into reality's nature.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this exploration into a very different way of looking at dark matter and dark energy. Lots to chew on there.
Definitely. It challenges assumptions.
So, a final thought perhaps. What if the language of the universe isn't just mathematics, but also includes something akin to vibration, meaning, or even consciousness, as these ancient texts seem to suggest? Something to ponder. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning.